everybody. Joey here to check in on some crypto charts. We'll wait a little bit, just a minute or two, let some more people file in before we get going. Dan right now is on vacation, so we all know what that can mean. So keep your eyes out for some volatility, and we'll see. We know that the trend lately has been weekends getting no action, just tightening up in a sideways range, but I would anticipate that one of these weekends people are gonna kind of get caught off guard, that is, and no better time than when Dan's on vacation. And you know, it really is kind of eerie how well that that signal correlates to volatility. It's almost creepy. But let's see here, we got some more folks filing in, and let's just go ahead and get on into it. Anybody who comes in a bit later can use the rewind function. So again, I'm Joey from TheChartGuys, here to talk about some crypto charts. If you're fiending for Dan, he is going to be making an appearance in an hour at 2 p.m. on Mario Nawfal's Twitter. He's going to be doing a Twitter space, and Dan's going to be on there. And yeah, you should tune into that as well. So before we get into Bitcoin, or I guess we'll just touch on Bitcoin. So we've got our weekly high or low set. We broke the high of last week, and that's what bulls want to see. But the reason for the thumbnail here of Bitcoin is waiting for some help is because we're not seeing the other components that we're going to need to see if Bitcoin's going to see some follow through. And that mainly is the dollar topping out. We know that a lower high compared to 103.57 is the most likely scenario, but there's just no sign of this bounce topping out yet. If we look into the daily here, excuse me, we can see there was an attempt from bears. Daily double bottom, bulls defended it, and now we are up to new bounce highs here. So that is going to need to come on down if we want to see some upside. Along with that, we've got the broad market continuing to consolidate on the weekly. So we know the weekly 12 EMA is going to be our clear guide for here. For the health of consolidation. If we lose that, then we got to start talking about some monthly consolidation. And we're right now in that critical zone. So there's multiple metrics that have this as a very critical location. One, the weekly 12 EMAs are coming into play in the broad market, both NQ and ES. And two, our weekly lower high is coming into play on the dollar. And one thing we've just got to keep in the back of our mind, after this tightening range bull break, or bear break on the dollar, you know, it's certainly not seeing much follow through. And if we zoom out to the quarterly chart, that could be the first sign that we're getting a quarterly high or low shaping up here. And if that happens, then the broad market, Bitcoin, commodities are all going to be going up against it here. So the big question will be, can dollar bulls confirm a weekly uptrend from here? We know we've seen some strong weekly bounces, but they've been unable to get a weekly uptrend. So Bitcoin, commodities, broad market, if they want to keep the bull show on the road, they're going to need to see the dollar come back down through support here at 99.58. And right now, due to the size of the bounce, that's just not the most likely scenario. So another non-Bitcoin thing that increases the importance of where we are in these charts right now is our miners are all testing their weekly 12 EMAs. So if Mara, Coin, and Riot, obviously Coin's not a miner there, we'll put it down below. But you know, all correlated there. If those were to lose their weekly 12 EMAs, that wouldn't bode well for BTC either, because remember, before BTC bottomed out and saw its upside, it was the miners and Coin that led the way off of the low. So if they led the way off of the low, they could lead their way off of the top. And you'll kind of see that in markets in a lot of places in general, that your higher risk assets tend to lead the ways on these things. So we should find out next week, are we getting weekly higher lows shaping up, or are bears going to continue to maintain control? And if we get bears continuing to maintain control, then we're going to have to watch out for this potential weekly rising wedge here on Bitcoin. Because if we're to see the dollar set a quarterly higher low, then it wouldn't be surprising to see Bitcoin set a quarterly lower high. And if this wedge breaks bear, that is what we would be getting here. We'll zoom in a bit more. So if that wedge breaks bear, we'll have a quarterly lower high shaping up. So lots of stuff to be keeping eyes on outside of Bitcoin itself. So, and if we look at we'll look at ES real quick, the S&P 500 futures, we can see bulls are trying to play defense. This is the 4-hour chart. We've got no follow through on any of these lower lows. And defense is great, but you got to get on offense if you want to ultimately prove something. Bulls certainly tried yesterday on the CPI reaction, but obviously looking at the chart here, we can see that bears claim the victory at the end of the day. So until these 4-hour lower highs are broken and then bulls can confirm a 4-hour uptrend, bears are going to maintain control here. So we've just got to respect that. But if the broad market can set a weekly higher low, if the dollar can set a weekly lower high, then Bitcoin is positioned well. We can look here on the daily. We broke our 12-hour rising wedge bullish. Let's go to the 12-hour and get that drawn on here. So that is the first sign of some shift for bulls, but they've got more work to do at this point, and that is going to be seeing another daily higher low and higher high. If we look into the daily, we are technically in a daily uptrend. Someone could kind of argue these little pivots down here. It gets funky when you have outside bars, but I'm viewing it as a low, high, higher low, and higher high here. So at this point, there's more pullback than bulls would want to see. But considering that it's going up against a strong dollar in a weak broad market, it's not the worst case. But ultimately, if bulls don't want this to be just a quick weekly bear flag, then they're going to need to hold 28,660 and then go back up and break the high of this bounce, 3222. So just going to be watching the lower high every daily candle pattern, kind of losing some clarity on the smaller time frames. We can see the 4-hour trend is kind of chopping around here, not seeing too much follow through on these lower lows. And maybe we could try to paint up a little bit of a falling wedge. Let's see how that works with this fresh low not seeing follow through. Let me get rid of that line. Let's get this line here. You know, that's something to be watching here as bulls snap up this dip that just happened here recently. Let's go into the 5-minute. Yeah, big 5-minute down candle and strong V-shaped bounce there. So in the short term, bulls going to need a 5-minute uptrend to try to regain some of that momentum. But be watching this falling wedge-esque pattern into the weekend. And if that can break bullish, that'd be our daily higher low being set. And then it would be all about this resistance up here, just above 30K. So that's what we're looking at Bitcoin to go ahead and look around the space a little bit. ETH, pretty similar, except it's coming straight off the low. So if we want to see a weekly higher low shape up here, bulls are going to need to hold 1800 and go back up and break 1876. And that is pretty much that. Anything over 1620 would be a weekly higher low, so lots of room to work with. But if you want to keep resistance of 2029 here within a stone's throw, bulls would like to show up here sooner than later. And to look at ETH BTC, we can see, just looking at the weekly, we haven't been doing a ton different from Bitcoin over the last couple months. When your ratio charts are moving sideways, that's what you can glean from it. So we know bigger picture on ETH BTC. We're watching this falling wedge on the weekly, but at this point, resistance is decently far out of play. And if this wedge were to break bullish, then that would be a quarterly higher low shaping up here on ETH BTC to keep us within an equilibrium of your high, low, lower high, and bulls are hoping for a higher low compared to 53.72 down here. Again, lots of room to work with for that. So looking at LTC, bounce off the lows and going to need the daily uptrend. You're going to hear me say that a lot here because many alts and Bitcoin itself obviously are in a similar situation where we had a nice move there when Bitcoin broke its 12-hour wedge to the upside, but got to get those trend changes from there. So we've got 79.19 as support, and resistance is going to be 85.40. And if we look at LTC, BTC, doing pretty much the same thing as BTC over the last couple weeks here, just moving sideways. We know bigger picture, we're still within this megaphone. And if we were to break bear from here, we'd have to watch out for the potential that this megaphone support acts as support. So what increases odds of that support holding is when you've got extended conditions on your shorter time frame RSI levels. So that'll be something to be keeping an eye on. Moving on here to XRP. So we've got our weekly consolidation underway, and now we're testing the weekly 12 EMA. So it's just going to be about the daily downtrend. Right now we've got a fresh daily lower high set at 6662, and bulls would need to hold 5967 and go back and break that resistance to begin to shape up a weekly higher low. We are getting our daily EMAs crossing bearish here. So if we get another leg down, then that would be shaping up some potential monthly consolidation. And at this point, even though we are still holding the weekly 12 EMA, due to how extended we were from it, the depth of this pullback already has us looking for a weekly lower high as the most likely scenario on the next bounce. So we'll see if bulls can keep things generally healthy by holding the 12 EMA. Looking at XLM, it continues to hold on much better than XRP. We know they trade similarly, and we're just going to be watching our daily downtrend here as well. Certainly not too much follow through on the confirmation of that downtrend, but also a pretty equally weak bounce up here. So we've got our daily lower high at 1460, and that is what needs to be broken to get a weekly higher low shaping up here. So to look at some stronger alts in the near or recent term, we've got Sol. It's up at the high of its bounce, not seeing any daily consolidation off of the low yet. And when you look at Bitcoin, you know, we're 3 days into some consolidation. ETH, same deal. Many names, similar deal, but Sol is still holding on at the highs there. So zooming out to the weekly, we know we're looking for a weekly higher low. We are testing the weekly EMAs, which if we set this higher low from here, these EMAs will be crossing bullish for the first time since we came off of all-time highs here. So that could be notable for a larger time frame momentum shift. So it looks like we do technically have this weekly higher low set with the break of the high of last week, but we know we're going to need to see a daily uptrend to have confidence in that weekly higher low being set. So if bears defend this 2568 here, we can be watching for an inverse head and shoulders, and that would be how bulls want to shape up this weekly higher low potential here. So key support now down at 2223. If that's lost, then weekly consolidation would verge onto the unhealthy side. You could just view this as a failed weekly bull flag if we fall back down below that 2223. So Matic, another name looking for a potential weekly higher low. Decent daily bounce straight off the lows over daily EMAs. That tells us that we've got enough room to form a higher low compared to 64.75, but no sign of it at the moment. So bulls are going to need to hold that low and then go back up and break 70.28 if we want to get the daily uptrend, get the weekly higher low set, and then it would be all about this weekly 12 EMA battle that we have been rejecting from for a little bit here. So let's see. Another strong name, SHIB, is keeping bull momentum. So not many names in the crypto space right now testing their highs of the last couple months here. And we've got a fresh line in the sand for bull control down at 876. Not gonna say all those zeros before that. So 876, fresh daily higher low, daily 12 EMA support. If we lose that daily 12 EMA, that'll be the first sign that we got some weekly consolidation shaping up. Lots of room for a weekly higher low compared to 543. And that daily uptrend would need to be lost to see that weekly consolidation shape up. So looking at our other doggy coin, we've got Doge potentially looking to set up an inverse head and shoulders here. Let's get the little drawer. So left shoulder, head, and now right shoulder is what bulls would want to see to get a weekly bull flag potentially, because we do have a daily downtrend. That was our weekly consolidation, but after this daily bear flag confirmed without follow through, that's what began to set up that inverse head and shoulders. So ultimately bulls are going to need to get through 7708 if they want to confirm that. So this name is not showing any strength. Mana, one of our metaverse names, but we're looking for a weekly higher low, and it's kind of sticking out to me just because of how tight we're getting. We have 4 days within the range of Monday, August 7th. So if this were to break to the upside, we could anticipate some volatility, because the tighter you get, the more volatility you can anticipate on the break there. So if we can get above 37.45, that would be our weekly higher low getting set, and bulls would still need to confirm a daily uptrend with that if we were to be confident in follow through. So looking at ADA, kind of a similar setup here to Matic, where we've got our daily bounce up and over EMAs, and bulls are going to be trying to get this daily uptrend to set a weekly higher low. So we know we have a ton of room to form it, but if it can form from here, that's pretty decent. That's, this wick is massive, so it still is more pullback from a retracement standpoint than bulls would have liked to see down below the 0.5 retrace. But when you're in this close of proximity to the weekly 12 EMA, that's a pretty decent look overall there. So another name to be keeping an eye on, we know Ape has been in the doghouse for a while, really since this monthly EQ on the Ape BTC ratio chart broke bare. It's been an absolute dog, just getting hammered, but can't deny that right now we've got a pretty clear falling wedge on the daily. So kind of a tough environment to be making like anticipatory bull entries, but I'm going to be keeping eyes on it just to not be caught off guard if we do see Ape bulls show on up, because typically when you've got these names that are just getting hammered for a long time, they'll kind of, out of nowhere surprise you with like a 50% pump. And then, we know we'll just be looking for a weekly lower high. We got weekly 12 EMA resistance, but if we were to go up here to weekly 12 EMA, that's nearly 30%. So definitely could be a trade to be had there. And last but not least, or maybe least, ICP. And this sticks out similar to Mana, just in the sense that we've got a tightening range, and we can anticipate volatility when these tightening ranges break. So we are grinding the weekly 12 EMA, and if it were to break to the upside, that would have us confirming a little weekly uptrend and getting over the 12 EMA for the first time in a few months here. So keeping eyes on that. And we've got a slew of supports down here. I would say be watching 391 and then 380 as the key supports, and then resistances. We have got 439, 452, and 458. So if we're going to believe the break, all of the levels on whichever side gets the break are going to need to break. So that's pretty much the quick skinny. Looking for some volatility. I mean, trading has not been too ripe in the crypto space recently, and it was looking like with this falling wedge bull break that maybe we've got volatility back on the map. But with the dollar staying strong, with the broad market staying weak, it's keeping us from really seeing too much. So that is what I'm watching in the space. BTCD, got to keep an eye on that as well. So we know we've got our weekly higher low set, and it's just all about the weekly 12 EMA. So this is showing us that BTC is outperforming the alts, and have to just continue to keep an eye on what we get from here, because if we lose the weekly 12 EMA on BTCD, it could mean two things. One thing we know for sure is that Bitcoin is underperforming the alts, if that's the scenario that we get. But that can mean two different things. It can mean Bitcoin is dropping harder than the alts, or the alts are going up more than Bitcoin. So obviously bulls would prefer the latter there, and we'll have to see what we get when that inevitably happens. No sign of it at the moment. And we got a little daily uptrend to be watching on BTCD here. So last daily higher low is at 50.20. So let's see what y'all are looking at. Hello, everybody. Options Deegan, can we expect more crypto check-ins from Joey now? That would be great. Yeah, I'm going to be starting to do some more here and there. Today was a no-brainer because Dan's out on vacation. But I'll be starting to do some more here in the coming weeks, months. Let's see. Pergar XD. Yes, it has been boring. I trade a slew of different things. Well, not a ton of different things, mainly futures of commodities and the indices. That's like my primary instrument. And then crypto is my other like co-primary instrument. But when the action is like this, there's just not much enticing me to put the mental bandwidth and capital into crypto. So certainly always keeping an eye on it, but what kind of trades are you taking when this is the action that we've got? And even your big moves up, you know, I guess 5.5% is not nothing, but I don't know. We want the juice. We want big days. We want consecutive days. We want steady trends, and we just kind of don't have that right now. So obviously we all want the space to go up, but if we were to see some deeper broad market consolidation, which we know we can't be surprised when that comes. I mean, it's been a crazy 2023 for the broad market. We've seen a lot of volatility, lots of bullish action, but when we zoom out to these monthly charts, we know that we'll see consolidation again. And on that note, NQ has broken its monthly stair step that it's had since March. So there's certainly some signs that we have got a bit of softening in the market right now, but bears need to do more because, you know, we can see that monthly stair step's broken on NQ, but we're still holding weekly 12 EMA. So weekly 12 EMA would need to be lost. We'd need a weekly downtrend. And if that's to happen, then Bitcoin is probably breaking this rising wedge bearish and looking to shape up a quarterly lower high. So obviously it's more fun when Bitcoin's going up, but if that happens, maybe some more volatility would come in, or, you know, the preferred route of this falling wedge, or rising wedge rather, would be a bull break. And we know that in strong bull environments, it's not uncommon to see wedges break to the upside. So that's certainly what Bitcoin bulls are rooting for, but we'll have to be cautious. If we break this 31,862, got to be cautious of the rising wedge resistance. And similar to the megaphones, when you are going to see rising wedges, a lot of times your smaller time frame RSI levels are going to be extended on that break. So that'll certainly be something to keep an eye on if we get that break, especially with how impulsive our moves have been. We can see most of our progress gained over 2023 was like in a handful of very impulsive days. So it happens quick, and then you get quite extended when you're going for the break due to that. So gonna have to just respect that nature that we've been seeing and, you know, be mindful of it. And really, anytime you're breaking any resistance, any support, you got to ask yourself, is this an environment conducive for follow through? And to answer that question, you basically look at your RSI levels. If you've got multiple timeframes with extended RSI levels, whether it be overbought or oversold, then you know that that's not an environment conducive for follow through. So it's best to see sustained moves. Fast moves are fun, but they're hard to maintain those gains or those dumps, whatever way you're playing. Let's see what else we got. Taking a look at Link. That's not right. LINK-USDT. All right, so Link has got its weekly higher low set here with the break of the high of last week. And that has us looking at this very clear base of resistance, or wall of resistance is the better word for that. So we can kind of draw that here. And we can say that if bulls really want to get a breakout here, they've got to get over the 950 area. And with this weekly higher low being set, it's, you know, this isn't a technical cup and handle because they're certainly best in uptrends rather than coming off of the lows. But we've been seeing this a lot in the market lately where you have a clear resistance, a double top at that resistance, and then a bull flag to try to get up and through. So that's what Link bulls want to see here. Let's see what our daily structure is looking like. So we don't have a daily uptrend yet. This is quite similar to Sol in that sense that we broke the high of last week, but we don't have our smaller nested time frame with its uptrend. So bulls are going to need to hold 694 and go up and break 792 if they want to get that daily uptrend, and that's what would give us confidence in this weekly bounce. And if they can do that from here, then 846.4 resistance really isn't that far away. So let's see what that would do. If we break all of this to the upside, it's probably our quarterly bounce getting underway. I mean, we technically have got it underway with the break of this stair step, but it would get it underway with confidence. And you can always zoom out a bit more and say that that would be our 4-month bounce getting underway, 4-month higher low being set. So let's now look into Link BTC, see if we have any clues there. So we can see on this 4-month chart, it's weaker, bigger picture than Link USD, coming right off the lows here, whereas Link USD has basically been basing. It technically is still coming off of the lows, but certainly not as much follow through as Link BTC. So pretty similar deal. We've broken the high of last week, and bulls are going to need the daily trend change to be confident in any weekly bounce follow through. All right. Can we look at the NASDAQ and S&P real quick? Yeah, we can pop back in on that. So talked about it a bit at the beginning of the stream. If you want to go back and check that out. We kind of had several patterns here. Originally, it was looking like a falling wedge. Bit more like that. Look, watching this falling wedge, then we broke out, didn't see follow through, came back down. So then I started watching like a bit of a falling megaphone. And then yesterday we broke out of that, came all the way back down. So as far as the resistance line, I'm just scrapping it and watching the support line because that's still plenty valid. And you know, whether it's a technical falling wedge or not, I don't really like to nitpick patterns too much, because ultimately patterns are here to give us a psychological perspective of what's going on and kind of paint what is going on under the hood in terms of who's proven it, who's not proven it. And we know that bears have control. They're clearly just stepping price downwards, but they're certainly not entering new price discovery to the downside with any true confidence, because every new low is getting snapped back up. So when you have that psychology combined with the fact that you're looking for a weekly higher low, you're nearing weekly 12 EMA, for me, that gives bulls the bigger picture edge, because as long as the weekly 12 EMA is holding, then it's bears who hold the burden of proof. The burden of proof lies on bears at this point. And that is just that. And NASDAQ is very similar. It's a bit weaker than the S&P 500. And we can see that we're getting a bit more follow through on our lower lows. And let's see if we've got an EMA that we're riding, maybe 12 hour. Yeah, 12 hour, 12 EMA. So we can just keep it nice and simple and say, as long as the 12 hour, 12 EMA is resistance on the NASDAQ, then bulls aren't going anywhere. And now we've got a lot of room for a 12 hour lower high compared to 1544.2. So looking at that, let's see, Ryan BNB continuing to tighten up for over 60 days now. BNB, USDT, let's take a look. Yeah, that's actually pretty similar to the ICP look, where we're just slinking around, tightening on up. Pretty similar duration on that EQ as well. So certainly can keep eyes on this. We know it got bogged on the Binance FUD, or whether it's FUD or legit, that's up to the individual. But got a nice clear daily tightening range. And when you've got tightening ranges, there's a couple ways you can go about it. One is obviously just waiting for it to break and then hop in on like a shorter time frame, higher low or lower high. But two, you can make anticipatory plays where you're just longing off the lows and shorting off the highs. And I suppose a third way would just be ping-ponging between them. You go long off the lows, you flip short at the highs, and just keep churning it back and forth. So it's not like a sexy trade by any means, because it's kind of generally lower volatility, lower volume when you're tightening up. But if you I suppose ICP is a slightly better example. Like if you're churning these moves back and forth and back and forth, I mean, there's volatility in there. That's a 15% move. So you can just work the churn. And I feel like BNB is in that same category there. And let's see what would happen if we do break to the upside. That'd just be our monthly bounce getting underway. And anything under 350 would be a lower high. So obviously a lot of room up to that potential 46%. So worth keeping an eye on that. And we're really within probably a quarterly. No, I guess the monthly is just fine. Pretty much a monthly EQ. Little choppy in there, but you got your low, high, higher low, lower high, double bottom, and looking to just tighten on up within that monthly EQ if bulls can get the break there. So that's something you can use if you are trying to position within a tightening range. and don't want to just sell and churn both ways, you can determine your directional bias based on what your larger time frame most likely scenario is. So with that, I'd be more inclined to be long and off the lows of this range looking for it to break bull than I would be to short off the highs looking for it to break down. So we'll have to see what we get. Dylan Valentine, you got the juice, my friend. Let's see. Lowest volume ever as well from Pergargs. I don't know how to say your name. I'm just going to call you Pergy. P-E-R-G. I hope that's okay. Or you can specify how to pronounce that and I could do better. My Pleasure NY Fishing. I don't know about that Awaken to the One, but maybe someday. Let's see. Stacks STX, please, for Stephen C. STX USDT. Let's see what we got. When I'm looking at a new ticker, I like to start zoomed out, get our context, and then zoom on in from there. So I'm just going to view this as one round of monthly consolidation. We technically popped this high here to get the higher low set, but certainly no follow through. And we're still within the range of that bar. So looking for a monthly higher low. We had the strong weekly bounce, and now we're just bleeding it all back. So weekly stair step down, that's going to need to break with conviction to get a weekly higher low set compared to 43.71. And we're getting kind of wedgy here on the daily. Let's see how it draws on out. Something like that. Something like that. Kind of has us squeezing out of it. Maybe we'll ditch the top line. Yeah, I think that's a fine a fine look there. So we've got a clear double top here. Bulls tried to get the breakout, but resistance at 63.41, popped it by a skosh there, 63.53, and no follow through. So we can say bulls are going to have to get back up through 63.53 if they're going to look to set that weekly higher low. So right now, only real support we have in play is 55.90. And when you're in a falling wedge, it's kind of leaning on support is kind of futile because you know the nature of what's happening. Like we're breaking support and not seeing follow through. So you don't necessarily want to be just like playing off support with a tight stop. Depending on position size and shape of the wedge, a lot of times I'll like to wait until we actually get that break, make the aggressive bull entry on the break with a stop right around like the apex of your wedge, because if you go down below the apex, then you're probably breaking bear out of your wedge. But often you can get better risk to reward just kind of being patient and hitting that bear break there. So we'll see. Let's zoom in a bit more. Yeah, very tight. So I'm talking about playing bull on the bear break of that wedge, but you can certainly be attempting low risk, more aggressive entries here when you've got a range like this, because your stop is very clear. And like, what are you really risking if you're buying now and putting your stop below the low? 0.5% on a high volatility altcoin, low volume altcoin, like 0.5% is almost nothing. So if you wanted to try an aggressive entry, looking to see if bulls can shift momentum from here, then that is one option. But really no indication of that at this point. But, that being said, if Bitcoin shapes up a weekly higher low, then we can anticipate that a lot of these alts that are kind of just meandering along might actually get some pop. So looking at, mana potentially is kind of similar context. We're like, yeah, we know nothing's really going on right now. But if BTC sets its weekly higher low, could be positioned to get some volatility. All right. Yeah, I'd say that's a decent statement that alts will go where BTC is going to go and BTC is going to go where the stocks will go. We got to note that BTC did lead the stock market down. If we look at when we began our weekly consolidation, it's on the 17th here after topping out and going sideways for a few weeks before that. And ES, the S&P 500 futures, didn't start its weekly consolidation until 2 weeks later there. So now you got BTC setting its weekly higher low. Is that going to preface the broad market setting its weekly higher low? we'll see. And that kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier in the stream, that you'll see higher risk assets kind of lead the way around in this follow the leader type stuff that the market does. Oh, a donation from Awaken to the One. Thank you very much, sir. You're too kind. All right, let's see what else we got. Stones Camp, thank you for the like. Yeah, hit that, if everybody can hit the like button so Dan doesn't fire me, that would be much appreciated. So I know, I guess we're actually a pretty solid like to viewer ratio here. We only got 61 people in the stream right now, 45 likes. It's pretty solid, so thank you everybody who's hit that like button. Let's see. Checking out RVF USDT for Paige. Thank you for the kind words there. Let's see, RVF USDT. Is that right? Guess we're looking. Let's see what this chart looks like. Yeah, I guess we just got this one. So we got a new, well, let me just see. RVF USDT, see if there's anything else with some more history. That's not right. RVF USDT. Yeah, I guess it's just this one chart. Yeah, so new coin and beastie move off of the lows. How high up are we? So almost 400%. And it's just going to be about the daily uptrend. So got to be a bit cautious of a rising wedge up here with this break to new all-time highs, not seeing follow through. But rising wedges, they're much more valuable when it's in line with your most likely scenario on a larger time frame. So like a rising wedge in blue skies is not that juicy of a pattern by any means. If it was a rising wedge looking for a monthly lower high, then that's when you can kind of put better odds into that. And in general, rising wedges break bear a lot less than falling wedges break bull. I forget the exact stats on it, but it's something pretty damning. Like 68% of falling wedges will break bull, but only 38% of rising wedges will break bear. Let me go ahead and find this real quick. Just so that I cannot be making up facts here. Let's see, I've got it. Now I just need this to load. Oh no, I don't have it. I guess I can't find it right now. I'll look that up later, but the bottom line is that falling wedges break bull much more than rising wedges break bear, and that's kind of, you know, to be expected with the general nature of the up only bigger picture element of the market. So that's not too surprising. But with RFV here, it's just going to be about the daily uptrend. So keeping eyes on the wedge, but we know if bears are going to do anything, they need to take out 35, 31. And unless they're doing that, then bulls just continue on here. And when you don't have a previous price history with all that overhead supply, you know, you can do crazy things in blue skies. And this has already been quite the crazy move. So if this wedge does break bear, then we'll have some weekly consolidation underway. You know, this has just been a weekly stair step since it started trading. So anything over all-time lows would be that weekly higher low. And that would just be that. Like everything else, we'll watch our retracement sizes. Pull our fib there. So 17 cents is the 0.5 retrace. And that's ultimately what bulls would want to hold to keep things looking groovy, bigger picture on this baby coin. Only been trading since July here. All right. Thank you, Dylan, for the like button shout out. AMP token, please. Let's see what we got. AMP USDT. So AMP, kind of similar to SHIB here in the sense that we're still up at the highs of our weekly bounces, certainly not as strong there. And we've just got a daily tightening range. So viewing this as a low, high, higher low, lower high, higher low now set, and looking like bears are trying to shape up the lower high compared to 29.50. And if this tightening range breaks bear, we'll have weekly consolidation underway. Anything over 1976 would be a weekly higher low. If it breaks bull, the weekly move continues through an area with a lack of resistance. Next clear resistance isn't up until 42.60. So that's pretty much that there. Bears want this 26.40 here to be the fresh lower high. And if they want to go ahead and try to crack this to the downside, they're going to need to take out 23.35. All right. Thank you guys for the more like shout outs. You know, it'd be a shame if Dan had to fire me after my first live stream, but you know, if you don't get 100 likes, them's the rules. That just is what it is. Yeah, Ryan V, tons of rising wedges broke bull in that 2017 crypto bull run and in the 2021. You know, that's just a hallmark. And a hallmark of a strong bull market, and the opposite is the hallmark of a strong bear market when you get the falling wedges start to break bear. And that's why it would really be notable here on ES if we did actually get like a serious leg down after all these lower lows, no follow through. I mean, that would essentially have us losing the weekly 12 EMA, and we could say monthly consolidation is shaping up. So that would be like just another indication of that there. All right, IMX USDT on the weekly. Let's see, IMX USDT on the weekly. So a bit of a different structure here from many other alts. We're trying to claw over the weekly 12 EMA, but you can see just how tight these closes have been with bears keeping it pinned down here. So as far as a weekly trend, it loses a bit of clarity for me with this outside bar. This is certainly support here at 69.34, but I think the more important support for me is going to be 67.40. And let's see if that lines up with the low of last month. Yeah, 67.40 is the low of last month. So when you kind of have something a bit ambiguous in terms of like, well, if we lose this, are we losing, a weekly support or something? You can go out and look at your larger time frame, just zoom out one, like fractal or whatever you want to call it, and then look at the low of that last candle, and that will tell you which support really is your most important level. So that is the 67.40 there, because if we lose that, then that would be some monthly consolidation getting underway after just a total dinker of a monthly bounce. So just daily stair step down as we near our first support here at the 69.34. If we break the stair step, anything below 75.53 would be a daily lower high, and bulls need to regain a daily uptrend if they want to shift any mojo. And we can see we've seen some nice pops up in here, but we haven't had a clear daily uptrend in quite some time. And when we got our daily uptrend off of the low, and that marked a momentum shift, and then we had that higher high there, and then once we confirm this little downtrend here, we have not had an uptrend since. So it'll be notable if bulls can get that going. But until they can, then these pops aren't going to stick around. Like, it's one thing to get a nice pop, but if you can't get it to stick, then it's not really worth that much. And how you get it to stick is you confirm the trend change. All right, I'm gonna give that hunt for the falling wedge, rising wedge statistics one more try here. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I also want to give the proper numbers. Still can't find it. It is something like 35% of rising wedges break bear and 65% of falling wedges break bull. It's heavily favored towards falling wedges. So I think that's all I've got. Thank you guys for tuning on in. Thank you, Angus, for the tip. That makes my heart warm, sir. All right, one last call out for hitting the like buttons so I don't get fired. But if I do get fired, it's been a great short run with y'all. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and got to keep our eyes peeled for these weekends. We know that there hasn't been volatility, but that's kind of when complacency can set in, and I just won't be surprised when we see a rando ripper weekend. And with Charting Man Dan out of town, confluence there. So, all right. Take care, everybody. Appreciate all the kind words, and I will see you around.